two big things happened tonight for Dallas to get the win. One, Dallas had to, in the face of elimination, play fast pace, fast tempo, push the ball down the floor as fast as you can, play in transition, try to get easy buckets that way. They did that. Lively and Gafford returned to form the way that they had looked in the Western Conference. Because they're eating on the offensive side of the ball, bunch of lobs just hanging on the rim. We heard about the record numbers that they were putting up. Because they were feeling juiced that way, their defense also improved. Of course, Dallas was going to be more desperate, right? Getting all the 50-50 balls, playing better defense, um, playing physically, winning the rebound game. Most of the rebound battle was won by just Lively tonight. So I think part of that and playing fast got Tatum into early foul trouble. I think part of Lively and Gafford's performance, this might be, you might as well call this the Lively game, was Luca heard the media crucifixion of the last 48 hours and he responded in kind. I agreed with everything that Wendy had said that first night, and it sounds like Doncic did as well because he really cleaned up his mental and his attitude and his body language and his energy to where he's seeing that that impacts and augments his two bigs. We saw this once during the OKC series as well when he cleaned up his mental, his whole team started playing better and he kept that going for like two or three more games and then he had to do it all over again because he's stubborn and young. He's young. um, well, the reality is there's 1 to 3 games left in this whole series, so I think he's going to keep that up in this next game in Boston, even if he's furious, because he's now seen how impactful what he does and how he does things, how that is on his bigs and how they play. A lot of us picked Dallas in this series because we saw the mismatch between Dallas bigs and Boston's bigs. Part of that is just that Porzingis can't stay on the floor, whether he's hurt and coming back from injury, hurt again and just out, or he's coming back from injury, so he's out of shape and he's gassed and he's fouling, all these things. Or can he even perform in the finals? So Porzingis being out, if Dallas plays fast and if Lively and Gafford really are back, then this is a very different series, potentially. And Boston needs to figure it out. So what we're looking at is this is either a 4-1 gentleman sweep or history is potentially being made here. Now, that would happen in a few ways. Yes, obviously a reverse sweep is totally nuts. Two, and unlikely. Two, Kyrie would need to keep his touch on the ball that he's found in Dallas and travel with it to Boston and vanquish the curse of Lucky the Leprechaun, which would also be nuts and unprecedented because that's quite the stat at this point. But I'm not sure that this smells like a typical gentleman's sweep. Game 3 did. Game 4 did not. Game 3, Boston just needed to survive the big push where the crowd is popping off in the first quarter, just, off of layups even. And they had to just ride out Luca and Kyrie just shooting the ball, all these just bad shots, and wait for the law of averages to kind of even out because they weren't getting good looks. They hadn't figured Boston out even when they were winning in that game. We were just waiting for the Boston run to happen in the third quarter, and it did. But this game, because they had to play fast, and it's interesting to hear that that came from like two sources as we're hearing. One, Markieff Morris preaching pace in Doncic's ear. Morris, for those who don't know, was on that 2020 Lakers team that won the chip along with Jason Kidd. So he's got a lot of wisdom to impart. The other was Kyrie, who was quick to, throw his name and in doing his own research after the game, where he was saying he was looking at the Golden State Series finals from a few years ago and how Boston struggled with fast pace then, and looking at a few other series. I bet you he's talking about Indiana, right? Indiana is not at Boston's level, but Boston did struggle with them this year. So they are going to have to play this way in game 5 in Boston. So I'm now thinking about what are the things that we saw tonight that are going to happen in Boston, or what are the things that are not going to happen in Boston? The things that won't happen are, I felt like there was a lot of like pity fouls being called in the favor of Dallas tonight, where a Dallas player is banging for a position and then he tries to go up with the ball into contact, and then when the ref sees that the ball doesn't go anywhere near the hoop, he blows like a suspiciously late whistle to where the Boston player is like looking at him like, why was that call so late? If that was a foul, like say it with your chest. right? That's not happening in Boston. No way. Refs are humans too. Some of that is even just subconscious. You're never going to get a more favorable whistle at a famously loud venue, especially in the playoffs, especially in the finals. The other things that I don't think will happen, we can't expect them to happen, are is for Kyrie to travel and keep his touch on the ball with Boston. Hasn't done it so far, right? Sometimes in the playoffs, when a guy kind of finds comfort at home, it can travel, but I mean, it's an unprecedented stat with Kyrie in Boston. The things that I think will travel are I think Gafford and Lively are here to stay again because they can play much easier in a faster pace as we saw. So that rim hanging alley oop game is going to stay. I think they're going to continue. I think Lively is going to continue to rebound well. So I think all of a sudden these two bigs are going to go back into Boston and they're going to be rebounding better than they were in games 1 and 2. I think Doncic is going to continue having his better mental as well because he's seen the impact that it has. And again, that kind of resets every 4 games. The season's going to be over by then. And Dallas is still going to have the desperation that they had tonight. Dallas is in a great mental place because either, first of all, nobody thought that they would be in the finals, right? So either they play their asses off, leave it all on the floor, they're even saying that, and they lose and they go to vacation, or they win and they're making history and their dreams come true. So it kind of feels like they're playing with house money at this point. That is compared to a Boston team that is still not shooting well. And we could say, oh, well, they're due to shoot well. Oh, they're due to shoot well. But a lot of us didn't pick Boston because we're not sure if this young team with maybe 1 to 2 real dogs, like super strong mental guys between like what, Brown and Drew, none of them are shooting well. The only guys who have shot well for Boston this whole series is Brown in game 1 and last game, and Tatum in last game. But Tatum, even Boston fans will tell you the last thing that they can trust is his mental fortitude, right? So if this goes to a game 7, I have no faith that Boston is going to be just clutch all of a sudden, aside from like Drew Holiday and maybe Brown. So it's fascinating going into this game 5 because this is one of those weird series where game 5 is in Boston. If Dallas survives in Boston, however, it's going back to Dallas and then it's going to Boston again for game 7. So the question is the strategic guys on Boston, Missoula, Brown, Tatum, Holiday, if they can't figure out this fast style Mavericks team that all of a sudden is here and that they have to go all in on that style by Monday night. And usually you need your stars to play well on the road. So I don't expect Kyrie to go home and play well in Boston, home, so to speak. But Luka could be. He hasn't had one of these supernova nights. Kyrie didn't shoot particularly well tonight. Luka wasn't hitting his threes tonight. One of those things could happen. Lively and Gafford look like their Western Conference form. If they win game 5, they go home to Dallas in game 6. Role players play well. Doncic Lively and Gafford play just like they did tonight. Maybe they get more contributions from guys who are all of a sudden figuring it out, like Tim Hardaway Jr., like Dante Exum, like Washington. Maybe Kyrie finally has a great scoring game in Dallas in game 6 where he's really comfortable. All those things totally could happen. And then we start wondering what the hell could happen in this game 7 for this Boston team that everybody has been hammering all year as being potentially fraudulent. No, I'm not saying that this could happen because Dallas was my pick. Again, they were my pick in 6. I don't get to be right at this point. It just doesn't smell like a prototypical gentleman's sweep. And if this series isn't a gentleman's sweep, I get the feeling that it's going to go 7. And game 7 should make Boston fans nervous.